Hey, thanks for tuning in. In this video, I'm going to show you how to tighten the joints. So that could be a ball joint or something like the knee joint that uses screws and nuts. And what I'm showing here is a joint that I've already tightened using the first method that uses super glue. And this is probably the best way to do it, but you want to be careful, of course, because you could potentially ruin the armature if you don't let it dry. But you can see here I'm just trying to wear out the repair that I did with super glue, and you can see that the joint remains pretty stable even after all of that abuse. So what I'm going to do instead is, since this joint seems to be working fine, I'm going to tighten the other joint, the one by the ankle, because that one seems to be a little looser. And again, what I'm going to use is Elmer's super glue, and we're going to have this version of super glue available because they're all different, and I've tried many different brands, and I found that this one works best. But you can find this at your local office supply store. As you can see, this joint's pretty loose, so I'm going to tighten it. And what you want to do is grab your super glue, and you want to just apply one little droplet, maybe two, over the top, and just essentially rub that around and just let the surface tension of the joint do the work for you, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to distribute like an even layer of the glue so that it hardens into like a clear shell, so that essentially you're adding just a little bit of thickness to the joint. And I would let that dry to be safe for a whole day, so that when you go in and assemble it, you don't end up permanently gluing your armature together. And so this is what it would be like after 24 hours, completely firm and stable. Now, if you don't want to take the risk of doing it that way, there is a less permanent solution which uses masking tape. You can use all sorts of tapes. I'm using artist tape in this example, but I've even used clear tape, and that works. And they all perform slightly differently. And it is a less permanent solution, and so you'll probably have to do it repeatedly if this is the approach you take. But essentially, you tear a small piece of tape off, and you apply it to the joint that is loose. And you want to make sure that's applied very firmly and tightly. And I think what I would have to do in this case is, after I'm done applying that layer, I would probably cut another strip and go at it from the other side so that I get a full nice coating around the joint. But you want to pack that on really tightly so that has a nice grip on the joint, because once you do reinsert this into the clip, in this case, it's going to have a tendency to tear that off, and so it's not going to last as long as the super glue approach. But it's a method nonetheless, and it's what we used to tell customers to do long ago, before we learned about the super glue technique. Now, some people have written in and said they're having issues with the knees not keeping their tightness. And so here's an example of one that's a little too loose. And what I found is that there's the nut and the screw have a tendency to not tighten fully, or they get locked together, and so as you turn the limb, it might be turning the nut along with it. And so what you want to do is you want to get to a point where it's tightened just right. And the way to figure this out is to tighten it first and try to move it back and forward, try to wear it out. And if you find that it gets loose, then you haven't reached the right tightness, and you want to go at it again with the screwdriver and keep wiggling it back and forward until you find that you've reached a point of stability. And that's essentially how to address the knee problem. It looks like the bottom one is the same issue. So I'm going to tighten, and then I just move it back and forward, see if it loosens up. If it does, then I repeat the step and I screw it in until eventually it stabilizes. So I hope that helps. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments. Send me a message on Facebook or email store@digitaldouble.com. Thanks for watching. Bye.